Welcome back. Today we're exploring the 10 most devastating weather disasters ever recorded. These events reshaped landscapes and lives, reminding us of nature's overwhelming force. We'll travel from the US Gulf Coast to the river valleys of China, the Philippines, Pakistan, and beyond. Each disaster is a lesson in vulnerability, resilience, and the human stories behind the headlines. Let's begin our journey into the world's most catastrophic weather events. In late August 2005, the Gulf Coast of the United States braced for one of the most powerful and destructive storms in American history, Hurricane Katrina. As meteorologists tracked its path, millions of residents anxiously prepared, boarding up homes and evacuating cities in anticipation of the disaster to come. Katrina made landfall as a Category 3 hurricane, unleashing sustained winds of over 125 miles per hour. The storm battered the coastline, tearing apart buildings, uprooting trees, and leaving entire neighborhoods unrecognizable in a matter of hours. But the true devastation came not just from the wind, but from the massive storm surge. The surge overwhelmed New Orleans levees, causing catastrophic breaches that allowed water to pour into the city unchecked. In the aftermath, over 80% of New Orleans was submerged beneath floodwaters. Thousands of residents found themselves stranded on rooftops, waving for help, desperate for rescue as the city became a vast, flooded landscape. The human toll was staggering. More than 1,800 people lost their lives, and hundreds of thousands were forced from their homes, seeking shelter wherever they could. Families were separated, and entire communities were uprooted overnight. The Superdome, intended as a safe haven, quickly became a symbol of chaos and suffering. Overcrowded and under-resourced, it exposed the dire conditions faced by those left behind. Katrina's aftermath revealed deep-rooted issues: crumbling infrastructure, stark inequality, and a government response that many saw as slow and inadequate. The disaster sparked national outrage and debate about how America responds to its most vulnerable citizens. Years later, the scars of Katrina remain visible. Some neighborhoods never fully recovered, with abandoned homes and empty lots serving as reminders. While some residents never returned, others found the strength to rebuild from the ruins. Katrina forced a national reckoning on disaster preparedness and social vulnerability, prompting reforms in emergency management and a renewed focus on protecting at-risk communities. The hurricane stands as a stark reminder of how even the most advanced human systems can fail in the face of nature's fury, leaving devastation in their wake. Yet, through all the hardship, the resilience and spirit of New Orleans' people shone through. Communities came together to help one another, but the trauma and loss still linger for many. Hurricane Katrina was more than a storm. It was a test of community, survival, and the enduring strength of the human spirit in the face of overwhelming adversity. December 26, 2004. A massive undersea earthquake off Sumatra triggers a tsunami. Waves raced across the Indian Ocean, striking 14 countries with little warning. In Aceh, Indonesia, waves over 100 feet high erased entire communities. Thailand, Sri Lanka, India, and even Africa's east coast suffered catastrophic losses. Over 230,000 people died, making it one of history's deadliest disasters. Millions were left homeless, facing a humanitarian crisis of epic scale. The tragedy exposed the need for early warning systems, leading to new safeguards. Relief efforts were massive, but the emotional scars remain for survivors. The tsunami was a brutal lesson in the planet's unpredictability. Its legacy is a call for preparedness and compassion in the face of disaster. In November 2013, Typhoon Haiyan, locally known as Yolanda, unleashed its fury on the Philippines, marking one of the most catastrophic natural disasters in the nation's history. Packing sustained winds near 195 miles per hour, Haiyan was among the strongest tropical cyclones ever recorded at landfall, with gusts so powerful they tore roofs from buildings and uprooted centuries-old trees in seconds. A massive storm surge, reaching heights of over 20 feet in some areas, inundated coastal cities like Tacloban, swallowing entire neighborhoods and leaving behind a landscape of utter devastation. In the chaos, Survivors clung desperately to floating debris as powerful waves swept away homes, possessions, and the lives of loved ones in a matter of moments. The human toll was staggering. Over 6,300 people lost their lives, and millions more were left homeless, forced to seek shelter in makeshift camps amid the ruins of their communities. Critical infrastructure collapsed, with roads, bridges, and hospitals destroyed. Survivors faced days without access to food, clean water, or medical care, as aid struggled to reach the hardest-hit areas. The international community responded swiftly, sending emergency supplies and rescue teams, but the scale of destruction and blocked roads made reaching remote villages a daunting challenge. Haiyan's devastation exposed the vulnerability of island nations to superstorms, especially as climate change intensifies the frequency and severity of such disasters. Scientists warn that warming oceans are fueling more intense storms like Haiyan, making the threat of future typhoons even more dire for coastal communities worldwide. Recovery has been slow and painful, with families rebuilding homes from salvaged materials and communities relying on each other for support, determined to restore what was lost. The haunting before and after images of Haiyan's path serve as a stark warning of the escalating risks posed by extreme weather events in a changing climate. Yet amid the ruins, the resilience of the Filipino people shines through. Families hold hands, children play among debris, and hope persists even in the face of unimaginable loss. The world watched in shock and solidarity, learning firsthand the true cost of climate-driven disasters and the urgent need for global action and preparedness. In 1931, China faced the deadliest natural disaster of the 20th century, a catastrophe that would leave a mark on the nation's history for generations to come. A series of devastating floods swept across the Yangtze, Yellow, and Huai rivers, following years of crippling drought, a brutal winter, and relentless cyclones that battered the region. The land, already weakened and vulnerable, could not withstand the onslaught. Dikes and levees, meant to protect communities, failed catastrophically, unleashing torrents that submerged an area larger than the entire country of England beneath water. Millions of people were forced from their homes as floodwaters lingered for months, turning cities and farmlands into vast lakes, destroying homes, crops, and livelihoods. The immediate death toll was staggering, but the true tragedy unfolded in the aftermath, as famine and disease swept through the refugee camps, claiming even more lives. Estimates of the total fatalities range from 2 to 4 million, making it one of the deadliest disasters in recorded history. Survivors endured unimaginable hardship, starvation, disease, and the loss of family and community, struggling to rebuild their lives in the face of overwhelming adversity. The 1931 floods stand as a grim reminder of water's destructive power and the vulnerability of even the most prepared societies. In the aftermath, China was forced to rethink its approach to flood management and disaster relief, leading to new policies and engineering projects that would shape the nation's future. The legacy of the 1931 floods is a powerful warning, a reminder of how quickly nature can overwhelm human defenses and the importance of preparation and resilience in the face of disaster. In May 2008, Cyclone Nargis struck Myanmar's Irrawaddy Delta. A 12-foot storm surge swept across the low-lying plains, obliterating villages. Winds over 130 miles per hour and flooding left devastation in their wake. Officially, 138,000 died, but the true toll may be higher. Over 2 million people were left in desperate need of aid. The Delta's rice fields were ruined, crippling food supplies and livelihoods. Myanmar's military government delayed international aid, worsening the crisis. Disease and hunger spread as survivors waited for help. Eventually, relief arrived, but the initial obstruction cost countless lives. Nargis showed how political inaction can magnify a natural disaster. The tragedy underscored the need for swift, open humanitarian response. In 2010, Pakistan endured its worst monsoon floods in 80 years. The Indus River overflowed, submerging 1/5 of the country. Over 20 million people were affected, with millions losing homes and livelihoods. Farmland and livestock were wiped out, crippling the rural economy. Infrastructure was destroyed, isolating communities and complicating relief. The death toll was around 2,000, but the scale of displacement was immense. Makeshift camps struggled to provide basic needs, and disease was a constant threat. The floods pushed millions deeper into poverty, setting back development for years. Pakistan's 2010 floods are a sobering example of how slow-moving disasters can devastate entire nations. The Black Summer of 2019-2020 saw Australia ravaged by unprecedented bushfires. Record heat, drought, and fierce winds fueled blazes across millions of acres. Fires created their own weather, sparking new infernos with lightning. Over 46 million acres burned, destroying towns and displacing thousands. Smoke choked cities, causing hazardous air quality and health crises. 34 people died directly, with hundreds more affected by smoke. Nearly 3 billion animals were killed or displaced, threatening unique species. The fire's scale was a stark warning of climate change's impact. Recovery will take decades for both people and ecosystems. The disaster forced a national reckoning on fire management and climate policy. Australia's Black Summer is a global wake-up call for urgent action. On September 19, 1985, an 8.0 magnitude earthquake struck near Mexico City. The city's soft lake bed amplified the shaking, causing catastrophic destruction. Hundreds of buildings, including hospitals and schools, collapsed in seconds. The government's slow response led citizens to form volunteer rescue brigades, the Topos. Heavy rains soon followed, hampering rescue efforts and worsening conditions for the homeless. The official death toll was around 10,000, but many believe it was much higher. The disaster exposed government failures but also inspired civic solidarity. Stricter building codes and new emergency agencies emerged from the tragedy. The earthquake redefined Mexico City's identity and resilience. It remains a powerful lesson in preparedness and community action. In September 2017, Hurricane Maria devastated Puerto Rico. The Category 4 storm shredded homes, stripped forests, and destroyed infrastructure. The entire island lost power, plunging 3.4 million people into darkness. Flooding and landslides isolated communities for weeks. The initial government response was slow, leaving many to fend for themselves. The true death toll reached nearly 3,000, mostly from collapsed infrastructure and delayed aid. The blackout was the longest in US history, with some areas powerless for a year. Recovery has been slow, revealing deep vulnerabilities in infrastructure and governance. Maria's impact lingers, a stark reminder of the need for resilience and reform. The storm's legacy is one of hardship, endurance, and the urgent need for change. The summer of 2010 brought record-breaking heat to Western Russia. Temperatures soared above 38 degrees Celsius, 100 degrees Fahrenheit, for weeks, sparking massive wildfires. Thick smog blanketed Moscow, doubling mortality rates and overwhelming hospitals. The heat and fires destroyed a quarter of Russia's grain crop, triggering a global food crisis. An estimated 56,000 people died, making it one of the deadliest modern heatwaves. The disaster was a silent killer, fueled by relentless heat and toxic air. Russia's heatwave was a stark warning of the dangers of a warming world. It underscored the urgent need to address climate change and prepare for extreme events. These disasters reveal both nature's power and humanity's resilience. From New Orleans to Australia, we've seen tragedy, but also courage and solidarity. Each event is a call to remember, prepare, and support one another in crisis. Thank you for joining me on this journey through history's most devastating weather events. Let's honor the stories of survival and work toward a safer, more compassionate future.